and I figured I'd just use this video to go on a bit of a riff and talk to you about my thoughts on the WGA strike. Now, this is a different type of topic for me to do a video about because I'm usually always talking about branding and building your brand. But I am a writer, and that's actually how I make most of my money in terms of the companies that I run and just my business income in general. I actually make more money as a writer than I do as a full-time college professor. And so I wanted to share my three takeaways from the WGA strike to help give some people context and for me to just talk through how I am understanding this. And also, the longer this strike goes on, the more your favorite shows are going to be impacted. And so I know there are a lot of different things that the two parties are trying to agree on, but there are two sticking points that I've found based on my research. And the first is that writers want a 6 to 12 person sort of writing staff. So they have these things currently called like mini writers rooms where they'll just have a few writers coming together to write the scripts for whatever the show is. And the writers are saying they want that to be increased to 6 to 12 writers on staff. My opinion is that this would be a really good thing because the more people you have at the table, the more ideas you have, the better the shows and the scripts will be, the better the movies will be, the better your favorite shows will be. And the writers themselves won't feel like they're overworked because there are more people there participating in the work because no show is written by just one person. There are a lot of different writers and hands that go into making your favorite shows. And so the second sticking point based on my research that I've found is a contentious point is that the writers want a minimum number of weeks of employment. And so you can kind of think about the writer's job as like some actors who are not really famous, right? They get picked up for a show, they make some money from that show, but then when the show is over, what if they don't get another writing gig for another 2 or 3 months or 6 months? So in between, they're struggling, right? And so that's how you get some of your favorite writers winning Emmy awards but not being able to afford to even be there. And I personally seen this. So I didn't explain to you who I am as a writer, but I'm the first Black woman to ever win an Eisner Award. An Eisner Award is considered the Oscars of comics. It's the highest award that you can win in the comics industry. And so I do ghostwriting for DMC, from RUN-DMC, for social impact companies, for CEOs. I have a number of my own award-winning books and I write stage plays and all of that stuff. But even for me, I can get a really big contract and then when that contract is over, if I don't have one immediately lined up, I might go a while without getting another big contract. And if writing is your full-time thing, that's painful because you don't have any study income, let alone really good health insurance that's stable and all of that good stuff. And I think we can all agree that we want people to be able to have a sustainable way to live and make money, and especially since consuming content and shows and all of that stuff is super important to all of us because we all have a favorite show or thing we like to tune into. So three things that I thought about when I'm looking at the strike is one, to me it seems like writers are kind of feeling like they're part of like this gig economy, like they are, you have 3 weeks on and then maybe you don't get another gig for a couple of weeks, and they're tired of being treated like independent contractors, right? Because we know that independent contractors are treated differently than like salaried folks. Think about your own job. So the one takeaway I see here is that writers that are doing this really important job, we don't have any shows if we don't have a writer. They feel like they're a part of a gig economy that isn't respected, which leads me to number two, job respect. I have had a number of writing jobs for companies, and some people are just outright disrespectful to writers. And so for some clients, I find myself just before I'm even doing the writing, just having to kind of put my foot down and create parameters for how I need to be treated as, like, not even a writer, but just as a human being. I have felt the feeling of just a client treating me almost as disposable to my face while I'm actually writing their thing that's about to go out into the world. So the second takeaway um, from this for me is the respect portion of it. And even if you look at the comments of a lot of the videos on YouTube about the WGA strike, you see a lot of people in the comments are like super disrespectful to writers and what they do. Like, just go to any YouTube video about this situation and look at the comments. And so I think the second takeaway for me is just the respect level for the writers. When an actor shows up to do a box, a box office hit film, they get millions, right? The writers, that is not the same reality, even though the thing couldn't exist without the writer. Like, the writer is so important that without the writers, the show wouldn't even exist. And then the third takeaway I see in this strike situation is thinking about the future in AI. And so I think writers, there is some nervousness and fear and anxiety around how far AI is going to go in terms of replacing all the various different jobs that writers can do. In fact, I think AI has already replaced some jobs that writers can do because it's really good at a lot of things in terms of the things that writers do. And so I think this is a place in history in which writers are saying, hey, we want to kind of you know, draw a line in the sand right here so that we can secure a better future for ourselves as this technology grows. And it kind of feels like a do or die moment for the direction that Hollywood is going to go in terms of what it will mean and look like to be a writer going forward. And so those are just my three takeaways from the WGA strike, from one writer's understanding and one writer's opinion. Again, I do not write for Hollywood, but I do write film. I do write stage plays for celebrities and CEOs. I do write comics for Marvel and DC. I do ghostwrite for high income CEOs. And I do understand what it feels like to not be paid what I should be paid, to feel like I'm being disrespected, and to feel like I'm a part of this really unstable gig economy at times. And while I'm not complaining because I'm doing very well as a writer, those are just my three takeaways. So let me know